could say their lyrics to somebody, you could just get that off, and they would.
Oh, for sure.
And they would be like, "Wow, I can't believe you
no
said
poetry." Like, listen, you heard it here first, okay?
We're putting you on, not just music in your love life.
If you got someone you're trying to bag right now, get your Men I Trust lyrics. Okay, just.
I know. Just say that to you. Just look, when it's really quiet, just get off one of the verses. I'm telling you, it'll
whisper in the ear. You didn't hear that from us, okay? Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to us, and leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather, and we are here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. The Bunny, a.k.a. No Longer a Munch, a.k.a. Vamp Life Forever, King Grant.
What? I think that we're here. We're back. It's Album Mode. This time we're reviewing Men I Trust. Equus Asinus.
Yep.
Had to Google that one. Their latest album, where we are finally outside of the COVID sphere, where we can drop albums that are tourable.
Yes, yes.
This is the latest album since literally the Untourable album that they had released. I think it was in 2021, where we were deep in the COVID vibes. Nobody can go outside. Nobody was showing up to shows. It was not a thing. So they thought, let's drop a new album. And also, there's allegedly another album on the way. They've been saying that there's this and there's another one supposedly coming out as well. So
yes,
we're doing a part one of part of two, it seems like.
Yeah, Equus Asinus is part two. This is probably the third artist we reviewed who said they have another album coming. Playboi Carti says it has another album coming. Lil Baby said that as well. We haven't received any of those albums. So let's hope that Men I Trust is going to break that cycle of the album actually showing up.
Right.
But this is not the first time this year we've had an artist drop in the first quarter and say another album on the way. But I believe in them. So I think the album is actually coming. This is their fifth studio album. And this is one of my actual favorite bands.
Wow.
Like one of my favorite bands, legitimately. They are a Canadian band, some Canadian content for you guys. We are coming to you from Toronto.
Yeah, CanCon.
Quebec City, Quebec, one of my favorite cities.
Same.
As well. So shout out to Quebec City, of course, for various different reasons.
Yeah.
Allegedly. But I think where to start with this album is kind of where you're coming from listening to Men I Trust in your past, because this is not a typical Men I Trust album. This is a little different from their usual sound. And I think saying what your favorite Men I Trust song is will kind of inform the listener and the viewer of what their sound usually is like and what kind of sound you like from them. I have a bunch to choose from, but I think I would go with Lauren as my favorite Men I Trust song. There's obviously a bunch that you could really, really... And to be fair, Men I Trust have been consistent. There is no wrong answer. This is probably one of the few groups where there's no answer you could give me. I'll say that's a horrible choice for your favorite song. Unlike when you said your favorite Future song. But...
Thomas?
What's your favorite Men I Trust song?
I think for me, Dorian is probably my favorite Men I Trust song, which is on Uncle Jazz. I would say that is like their seminal album.
I agree with that.
So Dorian, I really like. I love Men I Trust. Their ability to, they're kings and queens of bedroom pop. They love a very watery guitar. They love a whisper song lyric.
You think?
And they love very delicate drums, tapping ever so lightly on the toms, tapping ever so lightly on the snares, ever so lightly on the cymbals. So I think that Dorian is my favorite. Maybe I'm trying to think of the second one. I Hope You Be Around, probably.
Okay, I Hope to Be Around.
Yeah. So those are probably my two favorite songs. So I'm deep in the bedroom pop version of anything Men I Trust does, and that's where it is for me. Show Me How I
Of
think
course,
is
a banger.
yeah. Show Me How is another great one. So, but I think Dorian is my number one. What about you?
Yeah, Lauren is still the one for me. Yeah.
Which one is Lauren from?
Lauren's a Lucy.
Oh, okay. Because
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know this song.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a hipster or anything,
man.
but
Here we go.
not off the albums for me. A little bit too mainstream.
Oh.
But I think my next question was going to be, what would you call the genre they do?
Mm-hmm.
And you said bedroom pop. I've heard a lot of people say they're like an indie jazz mix. I think that is apt as well. But I think the thing about them is it's very soft, but they do have a lot of songs with pace. And it's not always, it may be soft, but it's not always slow. And I think that's what makes them unique in a sense where, you're right, a lot of whisper singing, a lot of soft playing on the drums, but a lot of these songs do have kind of a pace to them that makes them not as boring as they could be. I said to a couple of friends, Men I Trust walked so Clairo could run.
Oh.
I still prefer Men I Trust personally, but I do think that this to me is very much the bedroom pop template of make it soft enough for the bedroom, but not, slow enough that we're going to fall asleep.
Yeah, I think early Clairo, I brought my Clairo record here before, Diary 001. I love that. I love that project.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say over time, my love for Clairo has wavered.
You don't say.
It is wavered. So Men I Trust, they're kind of carrying the torch for me when it comes to bedroom pop in this way. So I think that it's been an interesting journey for them, especially being a French Canadian band, to be as popular as they are. I'm not saying that they're like Playboi Carti or anything, but they're definitely popular for a band.
And they've been independent the whole time. I think that's what's pretty impressive. We don't usually talk about an artist label situation on the show much, but for them to have been independent this entire time and to reach this level of success is pretty huge. You mentioned Show Me How. That's the most popular song by a long shot. Over 600 million plays on Spotify. It kind of came back to prominence a couple years ago when Joey Badass sampled it on his album. And I liked that version of the sample because it was basically the song as it is. And it was so much similar to the original that I thought that my album had skipped or something. And as soon as the song started, I said, is that my listening to the right album? So big up to Joey Badass for putting them on to some new listeners in that way.
Yeah.
But I think where we should start with this album is obviously the production. I think you talked about the whisper singing. They are a band where I probably can't sing 80% of the songs that I listen to from them because it's so whisper singy that I really don't know what's being said, if I'm being honest.
They're the reverse Playboi Carti.
Oh, Playboi Carti, I probably could sing more, to be honest. Over and over again, I might hear these songs and I probably can give you maybe the chorus because it's just such light singing. But the production, carries a lot of these. Now, I want to start with Bethlehem for me because that was the first one on here that felt like a Men I Trust song. I think the first 3 songs on this record didn't really feel totally like their normal sound. Their sound is pretty bass heavy. That really kind of drives the tempo a lot of their records. And on the first couple records, you don't really have that bass as prominently. And then Bethlehem is where it comes in, that bass line. And then the flutes carrying the melody on top, I thought was pretty cool. But that one stood out to me because I first heard this, I said, oh, this is not going to be a regular Men I Trust record.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think a good example of that, of them switching the sound or deviating from the typical sound was I Come With Mud, the first song.
Exactly.
Where I was like, okay, yeah, trademark breathy vocals. And I'm like, this is less dream pop and it's more of a country song. And I'm like, the only thing that is separating this from like being a Zach Bryan track was the vocals. And I'm like, this could have just been on, any of the previous Zach Bryan albums and it would have fit totally. So they were already throwing me for a loop a little bit. I'm like, okay, maybe we're doing a different thing here. Maybe we're venturing into a country.
I thought it was just me. One of my first notes in here was this guitar on I Come With Mud has a way more twang than I've ever heard from them.
Than anything, yeah.
So I was shook too. I was very, very, and this is why I said when we came in here, of all the Men I Trust albums for us to do, that we're doing this one, which is probably the least similar to what they've done in the past.
Right.
But I do think that I Come With Mud and that country-esque sound works for them.
Me too.
I think they kind of make it fit into what they do. It's like it's not normally what they do, but it does somehow fit into the box they've created.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would be interesting to hear an album, a country album from them. And that is something I do not say lightly because I do not say that shit almost ever. But I think that space is really interesting because that whisper singing, like, I'm trying to think of like country music, not really utilizing the whisper sing.
Not at all. That's why I think it would be very interesting, but it's also like it could not work. Like there is that possibility.
Yeah,
like it works on this project, but if they dive even deeper, is it almost overpowering the production? Yeah,
it's interesting because when I think of like country artists, your voice is actually a significant part of the music that you make. But usually the singer is leaning into being Southern. And being French Canadian is like not even the opposite direction. It's on a different planet.
Yes.
So I'm curious if they do more of that. I am curious of more country sounding music from them. When you have this, again, like the twang in the guitar that they just simply do not have in the rest of their music.
Not at all.
I'm just very curious about that. What was your favorite produced song? I'm curious about that because this album, it was an interesting one for me. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I think I Don't Like Music was my favorite.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, no, I felt weird about even having that, but I almost feel weird saying it because this feels like their home on this whole entire project. Like, I Don't Like Music could have easily been on Uncle Jazz.
Yeah.
No question. So I'm not even going far out by choosing that one as my favorite, but that one is the one that I was like, okay, I recognize this. We're back.
Yeah, that song also has more happening with the guitar, I guess. The twang that we were talking about, the country-esque twang, I would say semi-present.
Yes,
it's teasing you a little bit.
It's not all the way turned up, but it's there.
It's definitely there. Yeah, I'm just like, this song combined with the first song that we mentioned, I'm like, there is a country element that could be explored.
Maybe on the next project that comes out, we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, for me, I think my favorite produced song it's a tie.
Okay.
With Frostbite.
Oh. Okay.
Frostbite, I love the guitar, like just like the ever looping guitar.
Wow.
Just so delicate. And I'm gonna say this again. I've been saying this with hip hop music, with like Playboi Carti and like Ken Carson, that type of stuff. But more Kingdom Hearts vibes on this. Like you're sitting in town, or I wrote down where it's like you're like at the end of the game, right? And they're talking, they're having all these like reminiscent moments and talking about like, Kyrie and Sora and all these people. And it's like, I can't, like make sure that you do this shit with your heart, blah, blah, blah. But this is the type of production that is happening.
For that.
Yeah, this is a soundtrack for that. And I'm like in love with this style of production where it's just this reminiscent type of aesthetic with the production. And it's basically just a guitar. I don't think there's any other instruments in that song. And the airy, very delicate singing that Emmanuel, is singing, like in the way that she's singing, is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that style of production, I feel like you can only do that for so many songs because I feel like you can kind of just it becomes so airy that you just like start to float away. You're just like, so I think that it works for one song, 2 songs, 3 songs, sure. But if we're getting like 5, 6, 7, I'm like, I think it might become so detached that you float away, even though there's like little flourishes midway through in the song. I love it, but I'm like, I don't know if it can survive 8 songs of it.
What was the other song you said was your favorite?
That would be Paul's Theme. Okay. Paul's Theme, I don't know if it's a sample that that sounds like a sample to me,
but it's sticky.
But I can't place it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's great, but I can't place the sample. And even try to Google where the sample is from, and there's a bunch of Reddit threads trying to figure out the same answer as me, but nobody has the answer yet. But it sounds, I don't know, it sounds like a sample, like an old Western, or like maybe it sounds South American to me. Or it's an interpolation, right? That I can't place, but I feel it. I feel the old Westernness to that track. And that again, it's another loop. It's extended, right? But it's like it's like an old Western, like, you're stepping out of the saloon, the other person's stepping out of the saloon, you got the guns drawn, and like there's only enough space for one of us in this town.
This is the music that plays right before that happens.
Yes.
And maybe because it's Canadian, this gave me a little bit of Little House on the Prairie.
Oh.
That's more where my mind went. But again, same time period. Same time period. And one of the songs that's completely in French.
Yeah.
Which I think about the music, I often forget that they do have these parts that are in French. A song like this, completely in French.
Yeah, because there's those times where, first of all, because of the style of singing, you can't really fully understand what is being said. So for it to be in French, you're like, well, I don't really understand what's going on anyway. So like,
don't make a difference to me.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think like that works for them especially. You mentioning Frostbite was so interesting because I literally have in my notes, ask Démar what he thinks about this song and the strings in particular. And he says one of your favorite songs. You say you like the guitar on here. Yeah. I said, okay. I know what Démar likes. I feel like I've done my job as a co-host, that I know what Démar likes. I wanted to talk about this. This is something that they posted on their Instagram talking about this project and the upcoming project. And I think it fits into what we're saying about the production. And they said, early in the writing and recording process, we realized we had a collection of songs with distinct energies, yet equally meaningful to us. It became clear we wanted to release them as two separate entities, and both from the same genus. And that's where they got the two separate albums.
Right.
I thought that was interesting because the production on here is not homogenous.
That's true.
There's some similarities we see, but I don't see all this production as kind of having one flow, one sound, and one energy. So that makes me even more interested for the next project of what made that project so different from what we have going on here. But it kind of put something in my mind of what ties these songs together that's separate on the next project. And we're going to see when the next project comes out, of course. But again, I didn't see this as like one huge sound on this project. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, me neither. I agree, but I agree with the fact, like, I don't feel that sameness at all. I think that the only sameness is Emmanuel's singing.
Emma.
I'm calling her by like her full first name, but her singing is the only sameness that happens. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a little tedious. It's a little bit. It's just because there's no change, like zero change actually. She sings the exact same way on every song, and there's like the long breaks in between every line and stuff like that. It just gets a little like tiresome. It's just like, I need something else. I just want like literally anything else. Just like literally anything.
I can understand that because I think what she does vocally is more in her cadence and actually having something dynamic happen with her voice. Her voice mostly stays the same, but the cadence changes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs on here, I mentioned before, Heavenly Flow. The production on here, I feel like this to me is the best mix of all the different production styles on this project into one song. That intro has that kind of twang we mentioned with the guitar. And then as it goes forward, it goes into the traditional Men I Trust sound with the heavy bass and the drum pattern giving a little bit of pace. And then once we get to the end of the song, the drums change completely and it becomes an even faster paced song. The greatest thing about their production, I think we haven't mentioned at all, the drums, is that none of these songs really are loops. Like the drums change throughout the records, basically in all of them. Now we don't have no big crescendos. Like this is not the album for that. No big crescendos here. But I think that these subtle changes do kind of help these songs not be monotonous. I think again, her voice different there because her voice mostly stays the same. But I think production wise, they do a good job of adding elements that break up things a little bit.
Yeah, because even a song like Landkeeper, Landkeeper has a little bit of like an different intro. We're doing more piano work.
Mm-hmm.
They love a guitar, which is a band. I get it. But it's even nice to get even just like a piano intro and like I guess like wood instruments. I don't know if it's not a flute, like an oboe, maybe.
maybe.
But the woodwinds are leading the track instead of the guitar, right? There's some bass, but it's typically wind. So even that, like, there's variations in that sense as well. So I think the production is cool. I think that there's very few songs that I don't like the production on. I think it's like Burrow, or not even really Burrow. It's like Purple Box is probably the only one where I was like, whatever. But overall, I think the production is really good. I think just my major stipulation is the singing. It's just because I've been hearing Men I Trust for years now, over 5 years. And the way that things have been sung has literally never changed.
No. Listen, if it's not broke,
don't fix it.
Don't fix
They're
it.
legit, but probably one of the biggest bands right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of like a band that is larger than them, and there isn't really a band larger than. I'm thinking of like Greta Van Vliet is smaller than them. I don't know.
Boy Genius, would you call Boy Genius a band?
They're a super group, technically.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a super group.
The Last Dinner Party.
They're bigger than The Last Dinner Party, though.
Let's see what the numbers.
Yeah,
say.
if you look at the number, if you just go strictly by the numbers,
they're bigger than Last Dinner Party.
Yeah, they're bigger than everybody. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting like thing to think about that Men I Trust is probably the biggest band out right now. Despite their sound being so small, their music is really, really small. And when I say small, it's just like it's confined, subdued. Yeah, that's what I mean by small. So it's just really interesting to think about in that sense. This is just something that came up when I was doing the research for them. I'm like, there isn't actually a band that's bigger than them.
Yeah, I think in the comments, let us know. Maybe we're forgetting someone. Yeah. And we're not talking legacy acts.
Yeah, we're talking about like
current new bands.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone right now. But I want to know in the comments. Let us know. You can comment now on Spotify and on YouTube. So, is there a band that we're missing that is much bigger than Men I Trust? I would like to know because I feel like we're missing someone, but it's not coming to my mind completely. But I'm thinking of the bands that I've seen live, and they're mostly legacy acts. And there isn't really not really a new band like that stands there. This is my last bit for production. And I think I need the audience and listeners to help me with this one as well. Girl, 2025. That song reminds me of something. I just can't put my finger on it. So I don't have any notes. I just need some help, okay? Whatever this song is reminding me of, y'all gotta let me know. Because there's like a darkness to this record that reminds me of something that I just can't really remember what it is. So, Girl 2025 in the comments. Please help me out. What is this song reminding me of?
Yeah, that's another good song. Another song that has like that Western feel to it.
Yes.
You know? I think the keys kind of disguise it a little bit, but when you get like, who's the guy who's singing?
I have no idea.
The guy, whoever he's singing, that's literally like what the old Western dude sounds like in all of those old Western songs. So there is like a Western aspect. There's like a Western, there's a little bit of country. You know, they're venturing into the Wild West a little bit with their sound, which is a cool aspect. Like I'm saying, like the production is really good, right? So I'm enjoying this foray into a different space, a different time period, really.
Yeah, and I think Men I Trust is one of the few groups that I really love where I would never ask them to change anything. Not one time have I ever heard a Men I Trust album and said, y'all got to do things differently next time. Y'all got to change things up. I've never thought those thoughts. I've never said those words. So for them to do it and it to turn out like this wasn't on my bingo card. If you ask me what would they change their sound up to, Western would not have changed my mind at all. But they obviously did a good job because it feels authentic and almost immersive in some of these records. Like we've mentioned scenes visually that we think of when we hear these records. I don't think that their music before had that quality. So I feel like they've done a good job with this record in terms of having some of these songs that give you an immersive cinematic feel that was not really a part of their music before.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, do you have any lyrics that you want to discuss when it comes to Men I Trust?
I have one set of lyrics, and only one because, like we said, we can't really hear what's being said.
It's on purpose.
Like, and I think it almost adds a kind of a quality to the music.
Yeah, there's like an element of vulnerability because it's so softly sung. Emma feels, when she sings, it sounds vulnerable. It sounds like there's I don't know. I think vulnerability is probably the best word. I'm trying to think about the words.
But I think the thing is, when you actually look at the lyrics, not only this album but in their past albums, there is a lot of openness in these records in terms of the lyrics. So we've had times where it's like we can't understand what the person is saying. Then we look up the lyrics and we're like, all right, good thing we could understand. This is not one of those times. I think when you look at the lyrics, it's not a crazy amount of depth and it's not a ton of lyrics, but there are things being said. And Heavenly Flow in the chorus.
Oh, I was about to say the song too. Go ahead.
Wow, amazing. She says, Heavenly Flow, why you don't know, the earthly burn below. Sweet as honey, why don't you see how much you mean to me? You are my peace. I just feel like this is one of those euphoric love songs in a sense, where it's like a little bit of longing, a little bit of love in the moment, a little bit of you don't fully understand. And I think it all comes together in these last two lines where it says, how much you mean, why don't you see how much you mean to me? You are my peace. Like, that is just beautiful right there. So this, I felt like, was one of the lyrics that really, really stood out to me.
Yeah, I think that there is just a general sense of like longing that is happening. And also like I'm trying to think of the correct word, but this like sense of like you're on the beach and you're kind of just like embracing your surroundings and like the things that are happening, just like existing, but also soaking in the environment. So like a good example of this is like Unlike Anything, where it's like everything is pale and shining here. The sun's biting my forehead. Oh, water shines too. I fear it could swallow me whole. The constant wind washes everything near. So I forgot what they said. Reeds glistening with dew, so sleek. I feel far from the shoals. So this is what I'm talking about, where it's just like an embracing the elements, but also it being part of, you know, the commentary on how people interact with Emma overall. Where it's like in chorus, it's like, when my hand's gone, you'll be the same. You're unlike anything I know. You're still the one that can't be tamed. Never convinced you to follow. Sheltered so you can't hear the blame. Oh, tell me how far should I go? So you're combining like the feeling of the elements with then also the feeling of the other person. And like trying to protect the other person and embracing their feeling. So there's like a lot of embracing of feelings. Physical feelings, emotional feelings, metaphysical feelings. Just embracing being a person that feels. That's basically it.
Yeah, let yourself feel.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of this music feels like to me, is allowing yourself to feel the feelings that you are already feeling. I think there's one more part I want to mention that kind of ties in everything here. We talked earlier about what genre this would be. What would we call this? Now, on Genius, they called them an indie electro dream pop trio.
Whoa.
I think that encapsulates a lot of what we said earlier. But they are probably one of the few groups that actually fits the old idea of putting all these genres together. And I think when it comes to their lyrics, they kind of have that ability to almost say anything and cover anything because their production is its own song on itself.
Yes.
And I think like that, we don't have as many lyrics as we usually would have for certain albums, but I think like that's a quality to their music they've done intentionally that they've done well, where it's like the song can be great on its own without even knowing what they're saying. And not that many artists that we cover have that ability.
Yeah. One of my favorite artists though, Playboi Carti. is definitely able to do that.
Definitely in that group.
But I would say there's a pretty interesting juxtaposition between him doing a similar thing and what that music sounds like versus what Men I Trust and their music sounds like. So I think that the lyrics I would say are partially the point, because you get songs like even I Come With Mud. So this is the top one, the first song. You know, I come with mud from yellow bogs, pulling on calves. Oh, I come with love, east shores afar, fumbling on par. This is probably the fastest these lyrics have ever been read.
Literally.
For a Men I Trust song. Because it's more like the sound of long gone brains. You know, that's how it's really sung. To keep me awake, stepped off the shoe blade to reach your wispy glade. The breath of earth calls to me, whisper soothes tenderly. Touched with interest, I see nature's grace, bound to be. First of all, very poetic, very, very poetic lyrics. And that's just like, again, this like embracing of nature, right? And also embracing like somebody that you love, and like that being like a corollary of like always embracing the touch, always embracing the feel. And you always have like this whispers soothe tenderly. Touch with interest, I see nature's grace, bound to be. I just think that is just like imagining if somebody said that to me,
you'd melt.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So I just think that the poetic lyrics are actually a super strong suit of this album. So I think that even though the lyrics, I wouldn't say you're like, you know, you got to be tapped in, you got to, you know, go lyric for lyric, bar for bar. No. But if you wanted to,
it's worth it.
It's worth it, right? It's worth it. But you definitely don't need to.
Yeah.
You do not need to do that.
and I think like that's why I love that you brought up Playboi Carti, because he has the same quality where most of the time when an artist has music that you don't need to go bar for bar, when you do try and go into the lyrics, you're like, I shouldn't have done that. This is the rare case where going to the lyrics probably makes you like the song even more.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like, oh, this is what the song actually sounds like, what she's saying. So I think that is like a quality where it's very subtle. Like I often compare it to The Wire, where The Wire is a show where if you're not digging deep, it's a regular cop show. Cops, gangsters, regular show. But once you dig deeper and rather the show is about the political, socioeconomic state of the world.
But it is, though.
No, it is. But you can enjoy the show without recognizing those things.
Yeah.
And Men I Trust has that same quality where I can enjoy them without knowing how much the lyrics and the production match into building this theme. So I'm happy that we got to highlight that.
Yeah, I feel like if you could say their lyrics to somebody, you could just get that off, and they would.
Oh, for sure.
And they would be like, "Wow, I can't believe."
No poetry. Like, listen, you heard it here first, okay?
We're putting you on.
Yeah,
not just music in your love life.
If you got someone you're trying to bag right now,
yeah,
get your Men I Trust lyrics. Okay, just.
I know. Just say that to you. Just like when it's really quiet. Just get off one of the verses. I'm telling you, it'll
whisper in the ear. You didn't hear that from us, okay? That we're not suggesting no whisper in anybody's ear. Okay?
No. But I feel like you could say this to somebody and it would melt their heart. Like some of the lyrics, like I already mentioned a couple of them that are just super poetic. And I feel like you can just say that even on here. What is this? Oh no, you already talked about Heavenly Flow. So we've had a plethora of lyrics to show the poeticness, the subtlety. It's really well written, man. Really
yeah. Let's talk about what this means for their career. I think it's kind of hard to say. I don't usually feel that way in this section, but it feels hard to say because I don't have a good kind of handle on how big they are as a group, them growing.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a handle on that, and I think too, this project. It didn't go under the radar completely. People are aware of this. You know, we're in some forums who are talking about this. So it doesn't go completely under the radar. But I don't, they're not a hit radio type of group.
No.
And usually that helps an artist grow into the next part of their career is you have a radio hit, you have an online hit. They're not that kind of group. So I think this is good for the career because his music is good. So as long as they stay consistent, it helps. But I think in terms of what it means past that, I'm a little bit lost.
Yeah, it's interesting too because, like I mentioned, I think that they're the biggest band out right now. Like, I struggle to think of another band that is as big as them. If that band exists, and again is like making new music for today, please notify me. But most acts in this specific space, or just like in indie music, it's one person. So to see them be a band and then continue to be popular, I'm looking at their YouTube right now. It's 855,000 subscribers. They got 8 million monthly listeners on Spotify. This is a real band. This is a real band doing big work, right? So I think that having albums that are good can only be a plus.
Oh, for sure.
You know, they feed the fan base. The music is solid to like good, very good. Like I don't think they've ever released a bad album.
No bad albums here.
So it can only be good. And I think I think they're becoming just one of those bands. Like if you know, like you just have like this trove of excellent music. But if you're not tapped in, you can just totally skate by them.
I'm scrolling down this list of people who have the top listeners on Spotify by amount of monthly listeners, and I keep scrolling by legacy acts when it comes to bands, and I don't know how far I'm gonna have to scroll to get to a new band, but I'm gonna give you some of these names that are above them, and I think again, let's know in the comments, but they may be just the biggest like new band that we have, even though the first album was 10 years ago. So how new are they really? But Red Hot Chili Peppers, not new. We have Nirvana, very very much not new. The Police, very much not new. The Beatles, Guns N' Roses, Radiohead, Green Day. So it feels as if bands, of course, are not as popular as they used to be. We don't cover as many bands as I think we would have if this pod came out in 2004. But I think this is good for their career, just them having this consistency of good music. I have a couple friends who became aware of them last year.
Good for them. Happy for them.
And it's funny. They didn't say it to me because they know that I'm up. They're like, okay, if Adriel must know about this band. But they said to someone who I was with at the time, and they said, "Oh, you heard of Men I Trust?" And the person looked at them like, "Of course." And I thought about like, for the new fan, they are definitely on the come up, because if you hear about Men I Trust now in 2025, you have a ton of great music to go back to, and maybe even better than this project. So I think this kind of helps them in terms of gaining new fans and keeping their spot where they're at. I want to talk a bit about the cover.
Okay.
A very, very interesting cover.
This feels very French Canadian to me.
Very French Canadian. And in some ways it feels like the music. So I like the cover. It's again the weirdest cover I think we've had, period. I think just so. Because it's like it's so nondescript. Like if you saw this cover, you're like, I don't even know what comes in this album. And mind you, he's ironing a washcloth. So.
Yeah, it's pretty surrealist. I think that it's a good album. The guy's also like ripped. This guy goes to the gym.
I wouldn't call him ripped.
Ripped is strong, but he is going to the gym.
Fair. He doesn't have a beer belly. I'll give him that.
He's doing his crunches.
Yeah.
But I find it very unique. I can't really think of an album cover that looks like this. Also, he's got the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses on. Like this guy, he's unsettling me, but in an intriguing way, in
an artistic way.
Yeah, I'm like, what? This guy is. Why is he ironing a washcloth? What is happening?
That's how Jeffrey Dahmer got his victims. Intriguing enough.
Yeah.
But I think the main part of this cover that stands out to me is what seems like his wife at the other side of the bed.
Yeah. Is she looking at the camera? I can't tell.
She's kind of looking away from the camera, and like it seems like she's talking to him over her shoulder. I find it very interesting, but you're right. This is very, very French Canadian.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably an audience that sees this and feels right at home.
Yeah.
No, not me, myself, and I. but I think there's an audience that sees this and goes, okay, this is something I can understand.
Happy for those people.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I'll take him in an arm wrestle. You said he's ripped. He doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with me in an arm wrestle.
Yeah, maybe not an arm wrestle, but I feel like if he's like, yo, meet me on the balance beams, you cannot handle that.
We'll see. We'll see. Only one way to find out.
Okay. Do you think this is a no skips?
I think it is.
Yeah?
I think it is. There's not a song here that I feel like I have to skip. I songs I don't love.
True.
But there's no song here that I'm like, all right, skip this. Like, to be fair, every time I heard this project in full, when it got to the end, I was kind of surprised. Every single time. I was like, oh, it's done?
Yeah, it's a little bit short. It's what, 44 minutes?
I think
14 songs?
46 minutes, 14 songs.
Okay, so it's in the sweet. This is my sweet zone. I want every album to be this length. This amount of songs.
It's in the sweet zone, but just the flow of the project, it doesn't feel like it's about to end, and then it does.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a no skips.
Yeah, I think it's a no skips too. I think their music is very no skips just in general.
Yes.
Just because of how listenable and how like inoffensive the production is. And I'm not trying to say inoffensive in a bad way. I'm just like, there's not a lot of surprises.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about is like, oh, some of the songs sound a little Western versus bedroom pop. That's kind of it. That's sounds a little country. That's it. They're not like dropping a metal song anytime soon.
No.
So yeah, I think it's a no skips as well. But is it a vinyl cop? That is the question.
It might be. It's like it might be. Again, I don't have any other albums on vinyl, so this would not be the album that I would get on vinyl personally. Uncle Jazz.
Yeah.
And Uncle Jazz, the Untourable album.
You like the Untourable album a lot.
Yeah. The Untourable album, I think I would get as well. So I think this is a vinyl cop, but I wouldn't cop this vinyl first from them.
Okay, yeah, I think this is a vinyl cop as well. Especially because the cover is like weird.
Yes.
The cover is just weird. There's a weirdness to the cover that I like. And then it's a no skips.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the music is solid.
Yeah, music is solid. And also, like, I have an affinity for vinyl covers. There was a time in my life where I was buying vinyls based on the cover alone.
Wow.
And
this guy is printing money. Money's just falling out of the pockets.
No,
big money.
These are singles.
Big money.
These are singles. One day I'll show everyone some of those vinyls.
Okay.
But I love a good vinyl cover. And it's rare we get vinyl covers this interesting in the present. Most of my vinyl covers that have these interesting like names and titles and covers are from the 70s and 80s because that was at a different time completely. So to have something like this in the present, it's very rare to see.
Yeah, I think that the cover. I think first of all, rock music or let's say music that exists out of music in every genre. When it comes to a cover, there are different conventions.
Yeah,
and I think that indie pop, bedroom pop, kind of has this like almost like surrealist type of circumstance that they got going on with their music, where it's just like, what is going on? Like, why are they doing that? That's what's happening with their covers. So I think that's they're kind of adhering to that a little bit, and I'm appreciative. I think it's cool. Okay, the moment everybody has been waiting for, Adriel, for Equus Asinus. You thought I was gonna fuck up this. You thought I was everybody. I know everybody.
I did. Equus. You're right.
Equus Asinus. What is your score for Men I Trust's latest album?
For this album, I give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I think this album is really good. It has that unique quality again where you can enjoy this whole album not knowing a single lyric. And if you want to know the lyrics, the album can get even better. That is just a rare quality in music, period. For an album to just get better from reading the lyrics. So to me, this is 8 out of 10. Definitely a step to the left from what they usually do, but I think they actually succeeded in doing that. Still kept some of their core, but we're a little bit more experimental here. And as well, I'm excited for what's next. The second part of this, I'm excited for. Hopefully it actually arrives because we've had some people lie to us in the past. But this one is an 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay. So for me, Equus Asinus by Men I Trust. This is also an 8 out of 10 for me.
Wow, look at that.
I think that production's fantastic. the songwriting is really good, even though if you actually look at the lyric sheet, there's probably less than 100 words in each song.
Oh, for sure. You could tweet the whole song.
Yeah, you can tweet a lot of the songs, especially a song like Paul's Theme.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually just tweet that.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I think the songwriting it can be sparse but good. You know, and we've been talking about Playboi Carti a lot because I think there are a lot of parallels to Playboi Carti's music, in ways that most people would not.
Coming?
Yeah, most people would not mention. But yeah, I think the songwriting is solid. Production is really good. The only thing that is wearing on me a little bit is the singing is just starting to get a little bit old, just a little bit, It's a little bit. But I still think it's an 8 out of 10. Talking about good music here, man. Shout out to Quebec.
Big shout out to Quebec. Shout out to Canada.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast. Make sure you guys find us on all your podcast platforms. Leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars, not a single star less. Find us on the interwebs as well. Album Mode Pod on Instagram, Album Mode Pod on Twitter, Album Mode Pod on TikTok. And for all people who want to see how beautiful we look today, get on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Like this video, leave us a comment, let us know how wrong we always are. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.